Hey, this is Seth at Music Teacher's Muse. Tune in Fridays PST at midnight for new episodes. See you there. Welcome back. So today we are talking about the importance of teaching your students the value of listening to music. Yes, I said that right. You didn't mishear me. You would not believe, well, if you've been doing this job long enough, especially in the last 5 years, I'd say, not even that long, then you'll combat this all the time. At least I do. So, as you know, all these experiences are real world examples of everything I have dealt with as a teacher to help you become a better teacher or to become a teacher at all if you're a newbie or don't have much experience. So, but my Lord, I can't talk today. I have encountered so many students who say, I don't really listen to much music. So I have to counter that with this question. How do you expect to learn to play and appreciate and grow with playing an instrument when you don't listen to and absorb music regularly? And the answer is usually, I don't know. And because it's like really the only answer there is, because I don't know how you do that either. Because as we talked about in the previous episode, most of us knew what made us want to play because we either saw or heard someone playing an instrument or playing some sort of music that made us want to pick up the instrument or become a musician. So it still gives me a more than mild aneurysms, metaphorically speaking, when I hear this, because it just drives me up the damn wall. I can't get over it. So you have to help them. Just like you have to teach them how to care for their instruments and to respect the instrument and all these other things, like when we covered in the episode about, how to show them how to zip up the gig bag. Things that should be, and how to turn a knob on and off, kids these days. Things that should be so self-explanatory that we shouldn't have to even approach talking to them about this. It's a thing, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be talking about it now. So their excuses tend to be they're too busy, they have too much homework, mostly kids. If you get an adult who says they don't listen to music, it's extremely rare. If I've ever actually had that happen, I can't remember it occurring. They're too occupied with their video games. That's more of a complaint from their parents. The students usually won't complain about playing too many video games. That's a thing that they do. It's a common deal. So they'll literally have every excuse in the book. And for most of the songs that students want to learn, they're not learning Dream Theater songs. They're not learning Yes or Rush or any kind of anything complex. They're learning shit like Shook Me All Night Long, AC/DC, Skynyrd, Smoke on the Water, simple, fun rock riffs and basic, simple songs. That's usually as far as most of them get, even if they stick with it for a long time. They usually don't become accomplished players. So those songs are 3 to 4 minutes long, maybe, most of the time. And this is something you will hear from a kid, period. Kids have no concept of time. They don't. Doesn't matter how plain you make it, you can talk till you are red in the face and try to explain to them that 10 to 15 minutes to work on something or do something that they think is not necessary, they will think that is an eternity. So from whenever their lesson ends till the next lesson, if they do just one lesson a week, which most people do, there is 168 hours in a week. 24 times 7. So, kids aren't stupid. They really aren't. And I've had to question that a little bit on, because some of this stuff is like, come on, kid, you're smarter than this. Just think a little bit. But, for the most part, they're not. They're very intelligent. But don't feed me this bullshit that you don't have 3 minutes to listen to a song that you want to learn how to play from beginning to end. I don't buy it, because they do have the time. But if you tell them they need to do that, they act like 3 minutes is an eternity, and they don't usually want to do it. It's just, I've talked to parents about it. I'm not even a parent, but I've worked with kids long enough to know that is a thing. And if they don't think it's worth the time or they don't want to do it, they'll whine and bitch and piss and moan as long as the day is to avoid having to do it. So even if something is wonderful and life-enhancing as music, they act like that's too much time and they don't have the time. So be prepared to deal with that because you will. They're not all whiny about it, but they will tell you they're too busy. You're going to combat that. And sadly, kids are these days. In fact, they have so much damn homework every night, they're not even allowed to be kids anymore. It's bullshit, especially in a major metropolitan area like L.A. But even my nephew, when he was in kindergarten, had homework every day from the first day of school till whenever. He's 10 now, so he's in the 4th or 5th grade or something like that. It's fucking ludicrous, but it's a thing. So you have to remember, too, that they will say they want to learn a song, but they're only interested in learning the cool part of the song they actually want to learn because that's their favorite part of the song. They'll almost never learn the entire thing from start to finish. Or at least it's really rare unless they eventually want to be a performer or they get serious about playing or they just take to it more and they want to learn every little part of it. And that's something that people don't usually do, though. I've seen very little of it. Plus, it takes a while to get a student through an entire song, even if you have them for a bit. Just depends on the student, but that's something to think about too. So if they're only interested in learning that one little part of the song, that's probably all they're going to listen to, which makes it even harder because, again, most popular songs, or most songs, period, they're 3-4 minutes. You know, it's just insane that people act like we know it's bullshit, that they don't have the time to listen to a 3-minute song. Let's check out how to make it more enticing to them to listen to music, because it is a thing that you just need to do. I mean, number one, we've already asked the question of them, how do you expect to play an instrument and learn and grow as a player if you're not listening to music regularly? And they usually say, I don't know. So here's how at least this is how I have combated this, because it's a thing happens all the time. And so if anybody has any suggestions, because you'll run into this if you haven't already, at some point you will. And please just, if you have any other suggestions about what I'm about to suggest here, leave some comments below, please. You can tell them you got to make listening to music homework. Like not my last student, but a couple of weeks ago I had a student who I told him one of my all-time favorite bands now is Thin Lizzy. And so he was like, and he was learning Cowboy Song, which I was totally geeked out about because that's one of my all-time top 5 favorite songs that has ever been written, recorded, or performed. And so he's like, I really like Cowboy Song. So I taught him the intro and up to the chorus. And then he's like, what are some other Thin Lizzy songs? Actually, one of my favorite one was, which I honestly can't pick an absolute favorite right now. It's too difficult. There's too many amazing ones. But I told him, here's your listening homework. Listen to the entire Black Rose, a rock legend album all the way through, because he only does lessons once every 2 weeks. And then I sent him a couple of links, like Still in Love with You is one of my favorite songs by them. So I sent him to his phone. He's a private student of mine. I actually have his number. And I sent those to him, and he hasn't replied or anything, but he'll have had plenty of time to listen to that. And he's actually into that band, so I don't have any doubt he's already done that more than at least once, if not more. The next thing you can do is tell them or show them how to make playlists on YouTube. Now, there are some other streaming services because most kids, they don't buy music, they don't pay for it. If they quote buy music, it's that they pay for their Spotify subscription monthly. I don't call it Spotify, I call it Spotify. And if you're a professional musician of any type, by now I do not have to explain that to you. I fucking hate Spotify, and I will not support those rat bastards who make a fortune off the artists they rape and pay less than a penny for every stream. They can kiss the ass of every person who has ever been a creative force in the music world. That's as far as I have to go. If I say any more, I'm going to get all worked up and have to take a shot of whiskey to bring myself down, or 2 or 4, because obviously I don't like those people. And one of the rat fucks who founded Napster was one of the CEOs of Spotify. So if that doesn't tell you something, you know. So anyway, I don't know how to work Spotify because I've been told by one of my students who wonderfully does buy CDs and albums, and she's only 16, so that's awesome. She said if you don't pay for the subscription, it's pretty much worthless, and I have to agree, because anytime somebody sends me a Spotify link, I click it and I can't listen to it. So I have gone to YouTube because that's where I get any streaming music from. But you'd be surprised, as big as YouTube is, a lot of kids don't know how to make a playlist on YouTube. So you have to show and tell them how to do it. You literally click the plus button or whatever that is. It says create new playlist. And then you have a save button you click, and then it puts it in there. And I am the most technologically challenged person I know, besides my dad, who I'm sure I get it from. Love you, Pops. But seriously, if I can do it, anybody can, especially a kid who's only known cell phones and internet their whole life. But you just got to be patient with them like any other time and show them how to make playlists. And because as I said in previous episodes, they have some sort of force in the universe that is blocking their ability with most kids to remember the names of songs that they like and artists that they like. It's a thing. I've seen it all the time. If they can tell you the name of a song or artist that they like, write it down, because they'll probably forget. But it's a beautiful thing when they actually can tell you in the first place. But so that they don't forget, just have them make playlists. It's much easier. A playlist for their rock, for their metal, or just one playlist where they have everything they like. But, get it to where they're at least listening to it somewhat regularly throughout the week, or any time in between today's lesson and next week's. Encourage them to check out artists they end up liking, not just the hits is the next thing, because any artist who's anybody didn't get big unless they had some sort of a hit song or an album. Like Adele was, what's that song? Rolling in the Deep, which is really a good song, but I only know maybe one other song of hers by name, but they'll get more to the artist if they get into the deeper album cuts that they're not just the popular thing. Like my student who is into Thin Lizzy now, their big song is "Boys Are Back in Town." Great song, but it's literally about the weakest song on the album. He went with Cowboy Song, which is light years ahead. And Emerald, Warriors, all those other songs that are on that record, they're all just as good and better than that. So it's going to help them appreciate whoever they're into by listening to songs regularly that aren't as big a hits. And they'll probably listen to more music because of that. Because, now, especially with popular music, it's people only have singles. It drives me nuts to see people having a single release party. That's how bad it's gotten. It used to be we had an album release party because it was a big deal. You spend a year writing and recording a record or whatever it is for 8 to 10 or however many songs are on your album. Now it's, we have one new song, we're having a party for that. I get it. It's changed so drastically, but as a fan, I will support my friends who, when they put out new songs and they have a single thing, and it's great because my friends are all talented musicians, every one of them. Or at least I only have a couple friends who I'm close with who literally aren't musicians, but it's just one of those things I will never understand because I don't get the whole attention span of a gnat. And while we're on this rant, anybody who tells you they don't have time to listen to a full album, piss on them. They can sit in front of their TV and watch a 3 or 4 hour movie without getting up. They can listen to an album that lasts for half a fucking hour from start to finish. The last part of this whole thing here, encourage them to buy albums or buy music, even if they just buy a song at a time off of iTunes, if that's still even a thing. I'm not sure if they're still doing paid downloads or not. This is how far behind I am on the times, but I buy all my music. I buy CDs because I'm an album guy. And something that's good to teach kids these days too is, since if you have a kid that was born even in the early, well, I can't say the early 90s because they'd be in their 30s by now. So if they were born anytime after about 2000, anytime after about 2000, they've only grown up in a world with internet and post Napster. So they haven't had to pay for music if they haven't chosen to. But it's utterly important that they understand that regardless of the way things are, and even if they don't understand, because it might be really hard to get this point driven home because they don't know any other type of existence when it comes to music. They're used to, they go on YouTube or Spotify or wherever they get their music from and click a button and be able to listen to it instantly. But music is not free. This guitar cost me $1,000. This guitar cost me $650. This one cost me $1,500. Yeah, amps are $1,000 a piece. I mean, I've done this whole little rant before, but think about what it costs to produce and make music. One song can cost thousands of dollars if it's recorded in a professional studio. You hire all the musicians and the engineer and the producer, and then you have to mix and master it. One song can cost a fortune. So, or a small fortune, or a lot more money than most people have. And literally it's just like, they pay me $60 an hour to teach them how to play music. That's not free. But when it comes to recorded music, it's something altogether different that people view so differently now. It's so sad. It's a bunch of shit. It's terrible. But thanks to Napster, it made it to where recorded music went from $15 for a CD or whatever it cost back then. They've gone up now because people were stealing it and not paying. And in one day or a month or however long it took for that thing to take off, it made recorded music have almost $0 value. And so and some kids totally understand that, but it's hard for them to understand because they haven't known a world like that. But if you can get them to appreciate anything, because as we have talked about before, when people have to pay for something, they appreciate it more. Just period. It's always cool to get free stuff, but if you have to sacrifice and earn and save money aside to buy something you really want or you feel is worth your hard-earned money, you're always going to appreciate it more. That's just cold, hard, blunt force fact. So, long rant, but I definitely could not leave that part out. So, let's recap here real quick. So, again, you'd be surprised how many students, especially kids, are going to tell you they don't listen to music regularly. It still blows my mind, still irritates the hell out of me, but it's a thing. So, as teachers, it's something we have to combat. So, they're always too busy, too many video games. I'm a gamer, so I can sort of identify with that, but I'm an adult and I have a job and I have bills to pay, so it's different for me. And, they're too occupied with other stuff. They have sports. They have too much homework. They're always going to have some excuse. They're kids. So, and they also usually don't listen to a full song because they hear this one cool part and that's all they want to learn. So it's automatically a challenge to get them to do this. But how you can make it easier for them, one, ask the question first, how do you expect to grow and learn as a player and progress if you don't absorb music regularly? You can't. If it's possible, I have no clue as to how. So just instill that in them that it's an absolute essential thing, and don't be too stern about it, but just drive that point home because it's a fact. Next thing you can do is make listening to music homework. Give them a list of 5 songs to listen to, which is probably too much for most of them, admittedly. But you start out with one song. So your homework is to listen to this song from beginning to end. And they got a phone that does everything for them. So the fact that they will tell you they don't have time is a bunch of shit. And they can listen to a 5-minute song from their lesson if they're coming to you, or even they got a week between lessons. So they can do it on their ride home from the store or wherever they take their lesson at, or they can do it right after the lesson is over. Admittedly, their schedules are too packed, and we went on that rant about how the kids can't be kids anymore, but it's still bullshit. You've got 5 minutes to listen to a song in a week's time. So just make listening to music a homework assignment. and just make it fun, especially if it's something they enjoy. This is hardly punishment. Tell them how to make playlists on YouTube, or if they have a Spotify account, most of them do, they will be able to do that already. They should already be doing it if they're using it at all. And it lists suggestions and all that sort of stuff. I found a couple artists from YouTube I didn't even know existed until I was just listening to the playlist it created for me automatically, and it was the next one in line. Like, oh shit, what's this? This is awesome. So it's just one of those things. But have them make playlists of favorites, whether it's styles or songs or artists, doesn't matter. But just let them do that at their own discretion. But show them how, because a lot of them, since they don't use YouTube for that, Spotify is the thing. I don't, if it bothers anybody as many times as I say that, I don't care. I refuse to call it what it's actually called, because it's perfectly understandable as to why I say that. If you have to question that by now, you just started tuning in. Encourage them to check out artists that they end up liking, and not just the album, not just the hit singles or the popular songs. Deeper album cuts and songs are usually better. They're just not the lead off track that used to sell the album. That will make them appreciate the things that aren't popular, and should make them more appreciative of music as a listener. Because, well, like, for instance, I'll never stop raving about how brilliant Thin Lizzy and Phil Lynott were. But you ask any Thin Lizzy fan, you ask people if they've heard of Thin Lizzy, they'll say no. You say Boys Are Back in Town. Oh yeah, that's the only damn song they know. They had 12 albums. So and that was a brilliant, great song, but far from their greatest. So that's just a really good example. And last but not least, encourage them to physically buy, whether it's a download from wherever they get it from, or independent artist, or whoever it may be, or if they get it from Amazon or wherever it is. Encourage them to physically purchase music with their money, because music, nothing's free, but someone has to pay for it somewhere. But digital media, the digital age has made it to where anybody who creates content is screwed. Filmmakers, musicians, because the second it's digitally available, somebody can steal it. It's crap, but it's been a thing for a long time. So the lessons that they pay for are not free. My student loan payment that I spent, well, I'm still certainly paying for, was not free. My music education, my gear, your gear, all that's all stuff that's required to make music. The knowledge I have that I teach them did not come free at all, and the music they listen to isn't free either. So, and growing up in the world that they have, that's harder for them to understand. But just, don't harp on it too much, but just make it to where they understand that that's just the way it is. Things are the way that they are, but that doesn't make it right. And as long as they know the difference, then you're helping make a difference in them for the better. So thanks for tuning in and watching. Please hit the bell for new videos. Subscribe, like, share. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Check out our sponsors in the description below. And we will see you next week.